well, a little bit, but she was not doing rock. She was not integrating and making movies. She stayed stuck in the ear world. Now she's a meditator. What can I say? Well, we'll say about that. So then, Bye Bye Butterfly, 1965 by Pauline Oliveros. And he gives the link to go see Bye Bye Butterfly. Well, Zappa incorporated her ideas as a subset. Don't get stuck on Pauline. She ended up just being a Buddhist. Minimax. Zappa is actively trying to colonize other art forms, like the Satellite Conductor, like the Secret Council 10, like the latest environment, subsumes, absorbs all previous environments. So Zappa is miming the Android meme. Then Leon says, Godzilla Akira Project Ako, Atomic Boom. Don't know what he's trying to say there. Minimax, respond on the show now. Minimax is demanding me to respond, but that's probably an hour or two ago. Minimax, to the McLuhan fiasco. Oh, he wants me to tell him about the McLuhan fiasco. Rob says, Bob makes everything fun by metamorphosis of words into being. You agree with that, right, Bert?
Yes. This is fun.
I make everything fun by metamorphosis of words into being. Robert says, Godzilla responds to the megahertz, MHZ. Is that megahertz? Godzilla responds to the megahertz frequency. He responds to the megahertz frequency. Mozilla pulled in the news from various sources. Aquaman was the early Japanese Bandai Rangers. Don't know if I said that right. Then he says, opposites of the equator go down different directions down the drain. Yes, different sides of the equator go down the drain differently. That'd be going down the vortex. Alyssa says, yes, ga-ha-ha, the art world just gives the MFA $1 million. Oh, she's responding to something I just said. Yeah, very good. Yeah, the art world just gives the Master of Fine Arts $1 million. She goes, so true. Then Alyssa says, good point. The real art was the Android meme, and the art world failed to be prophetic. I'd like to consider the ways the art world did reveal the Android meme, although unknowingly. Well, that was done by Phineas Wake, Alyssa. And Don Thiel's books are pretty good at showing the better artists and how they mimed the Android meme, but mainly it's Phineas Wake and Zappa. I mean, remember, Zappa has his characters being robots in the late 60s. Now, Robert Anton Wilson's The Illuminatus trilogy is pretty good because in the end you find out, or at least that's what I found out, the narrator is a virtual robot or something. The narrator of the Illuminatus trilogy is a machine.
Really?
And then Alyssa, yeah, that's why it made the chart. And Alyssa says, were you reading? Yes, this is Marcia McLuhan. She came in late, I guess. So this is in the book, Understanding Me, which is a collection of lectures and interviews with McLuhan put together by his daughter. And one of them is this lecture he gave in 1973 at Columbia to undergraduate students called Art as Survival in the Electric Age on April 9th, 1973. That's what we're reading. Right up your alley, Alyssa. And then she says, can't talk now, but so wish I could. Next week, we'll be listening. All right, well, she can't talk right now, but we've got to get back on to Zappa. So we've got to find Roxy. So I think I will call her to see if there's some other screw up.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
What, you've been here the whole fucking time? Yeah, we hear you.
No,
you've been here the whole time?
No, I had to go to the toilet, but I didn't want to interrupt.
You didn't want us to hear the toilet sounds is what you mean, right? that was so Zappa.
It's a nice sound. It's like experimental composition.
Yeah, it's like a Hugh LeCane, the dripping drops of Hugh LeCane. Oh, that's right. So we played Hugh LeCane.
Well, it's another vortex.
Another vortex, right. No, we played Hugh LeCane. Gail Young, Rainer Reisenstein's partner, wife, wrote a book on Hugh LeCane years ago. Came out in 1989. The Canadian contribution to the electronic world. And Lauren has been calling in here, not lately. He's the young art student complaining about the art world in Los Angeles. Remember him calling in a few months ago, pretty regular.
Yes.
But I think he wanted to talk to Ian, so maybe he's not coming in if Ian's not here. But I was going to say something about Gail a few minutes ago, but I couldn't connect it. But you just brought it in. Let's see, Gail, Hewlett Kane, Gail, electronic music, and somehow that rubs up against us.
The big picture of Zappa sitting in the toilet is so famous. That's the vortex. Sitting on the vortex.
Good point. That's
surviving.
He survived. Good point. He's sitting on the vortex. And that was an accident. A promoter, I think down in Dallas or someplace, barged in on him while he was in the bathroom while staying at the promoter's house and took the picture of him. Rudely just took the picture of him and put it out as a poster. How would you like that, Bert? I mean, I don't know if Zappa, I never heard of him suing, or maybe Zappa. I mean, Zappa had this image, and that was the only thing he was famous for was for these scandalous images, and nobody recognized what an amazing environment he was as a musician, as a creator. They just noticed the porn, but it's just like they banned Ulysses, the greatest book of its day and of the 20th century, say. They banned it for the disgusting physical descriptions in it.
Yes, but
this is
the exact art that is helping us survive. The Android meme.
What did you say? Did you say vibe?
No, the tactile art that helps us survive. The Android. Tactile.
Yeah, tactile art. Good point. Tactility as an art helps you understand and bypass the Android meme. So, and that's the interplay of co-anesthesia and synesthesia. So I've been reading about the violence of the arts. You heard all that. That was good stuff, eh? I've actually never heard. What he's saying here is a bit different than what he usually said. He's saying more to the students. And that's actually what would happen. If you were a student of his, you'd get a lot more one-on-one time with him, and he'd fill in a lot of things. But when he went public and wrote a book, it would be a manipulative attack on the public. Because he said, I regard myself as the enemy of society. That's what he said. So he was being violent. So he predicts, which we know in the end is Iandom, there's going to be a complete change in image in the arts very soon, as there is in technology. So it's going to be a complete change in upcoming technologies.
Yes, because you said that in this novel, the Illuminati Android meme at the end, the robot or something like that?
You mean Robert Anton Wilson's novel, The Illuminatus Trilogy?
Yeah. Yeah, I was remembering in the Forbidden Planet, the robot that welcomes humans arriving to the Forbidden Planet with the acoustic monster. It's a robot called Robbie the Robot. So that's
right, Robbie the Robot. Bobby again, that's right. Now, here's to point, Kevin Currier wanted Ben Watson to be updated. He said Ben Watson was too British, too European to understand the subtleties of the American ground to get really what Zappa was doing, and therefore shouldn't have relied on Adorno. Now, we know Adorno criticized the industries, the music pop culture thing, and got lost in his bookish culture. But what I'm reading here, and we're going to read about the instant replay, about jazz and rock, about art upsetting, you can teach that in high school, and then you would understand why Zappa and the great arts are not popular. It's spelled out simply for people to get. It's not with postmodern jargon language. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying very valuable stuff, but it's simple. It's not hard to get. It's not jargon. And he's explaining something that's hard to perceive at first. But I admire his simplicity compared to the Derridas and obfuscators of bullshit. They're seeing the same thing as McLuhan almost, but they have to obfuscate it because they have to become mysterious to have their gigs on the lecture circuit. Okay.
But that's where Zappa was active in what McLuhan's explaining. If you look at Zappa's his music or even his interviews, he was always on point of illustrating that. He was artistic.
Yep.
I mean, he had a gleam in his eye. I got to watch some of the videos this week, and the gleam in his eye, he was always alert.
Laughing. He knew what he was doing. He was laughing, and he knew he was being satirical, and knowing that people would dig it 20 years later, or 100 years later. Yeah. It's the same gleam in my eye. You've noticed that in any meme. I got the fucking gleam.
Of course.
It's interesting. I've looked at a couple of Carolyn's TV summits, or she's videotaped in a summit, and you see her talking, and it's not as aggressive, but there's a slight little gleam in Carolyn's eye as she's talking, as she knows the person's getting blown away by what she's saying. Ever notice that in Carolyn?
Yes. And also her hand, she uses her hands also when she talks as well, which illustrates it.
Well, how does she use her hands? Oh, you mean is gleaming?
Part of the gleam is when she's using her hands when she illustrates some of her points when she's on
that's interesting. Non-visual gleam.
Yes.
Let me see. Where's Carolyn? I think she's watching TV, but... Hey, Carolyn. Bert's describing the gleam in Zappa's eye when he's seen in interviews. And then I said, I had a gleam. And then I said that you have less obvious gleam. That it's a smirk you see. But then Bert says you see your gleam in your hands, the way you use your hands. You hear that, Bert? You hear her go woo?
Yeah.
Ooh,
you see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that. I don't know what a gleam would look like in the hand. So you're saying there's a bit of a satirical use of her hands?
No, it's just the point. I mean, she's gleaming anyway, but when she uses her hands, you can see the point that when she's talking, her hands are sort of like exclamation points of what she's illustrating.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I was watching Lance Strait do a video, this head guy in the Media Ecology Association world, and he's out of Fordham University. He was a guest lecturer at some university, and his hand gestures were completely off. Like they were punching the air a long time. Like his out-of-syncness, his lack of Bob knowledge made his gesturing bad. I was just looking at that yesterday. But yeah, Carolyn's pretty good at gesturing. So here's the interesting point. What's the difference between Zappa and McLuhan? So Zappa is an artist, a technician. He's not a teacher, an academic. McLuhan is seen as an academic and a teacher and commenting on the scene. And so you think Zappa's out there making entertainment and manipulating satire, and McLuhan's commenting on it. But people didn't realize that McLuhan was in the same entertaining musical world doing acoustic performances and turning his academic life into an art form. You don't understand McLuhan if you think as a professor just commenting on things. This is what Walter Bower used to say to me. He said, Bob, I was in the middle of it all. McLuhan was just on the sidelines commenting. He wasn't in the middle of it, the drama. I said, no fucking way. You were an extension of the drama McLuhan was creating. McLuhan influenced a lot of levels. And Walter was reacting inside the drama that McLuhan created. He got fooled by the book part of McLuhan. McLuhan was always going around to corporations, consulting, inventing things, very active, not just writing books. You know what I mean? Doing many things, much like Frank.
That's the thing with the scholars. The scholars at the beginning were just commenting on the margins of the manuscripts, but some were so good that their comments became better known than the actual words they were commenting.
Yeah. Good
so
point.
That's the ground of the figure and the ground becoming the figure. And McLuhan was this type of scholar commenting on everything, but he was actually the figure. He was not ground.
But he wasn't a scholar.
The medium.
He did his, listen to this, he did his scholarship in the 30s at Cambridge, and he wrote his PhD, which is a great scholarly pattern, 2,000 years of the interplay of rhetoric, grammar, and dialectic in the trivium. That's his scholarship. Everything after that is him looking around in pop culture, in academic, in science, to support what he said in his thesis. And that's why you read Ted Carpenter, who says Marshall didn't invent anything. He just stole from everybody. Now, that's a crude way of saying that Marshall would see what Ashley Montague would say, what this guy would say, what that guy say, and he'd say, okay, I'll line up all these 10 guys. they're all being affected by the radio environment. You know, Pound, Elliott, and Joyce and Lewis are miming the effect of the radio environment. That's more significant than anything they did, than they made. So, what was my point there? So he would fit it back into what he had known, and when he did his thesis, he'd fit it back into what he called the ancient quarrel between the dialecticians on one side and the grammarians/rhetoricians on the other side. Eric repeats it in his new book on the history of manipulative satire. It's the same battle. And McLuhan repeated that in formula, and that gave him time to comment on what was going on. Like on McCarthyism or on Elvis. He writes about Elvis very early in the 50s. He was always hanging out like a teenager, consuming the new movies, the new pop culture forms, and having fun, while hiding under this scholarship image. And he appeared to be a scholar, doing ongoing research, because what he was expert in, people didn't know about. They didn't know what his thesis was an expert on. It's pretty obscure stuff. And so, what was the next sentence? So he would appear to, he would say, I'm sick of being famous and having to go around and lecture all over the world. I'd like to get back to my 19th century studies. That's what he used to say. Please, give me a break so I can go back and read old books and old obsolete technology and do some scholarship. And Don Thiel said that it actually got pretty hectic for McLuhan, and McLuhan got in a bit of trouble. His later books were a bit thin on the scholarship level because he didn't have time to do scholarship. He tried to retrieve it with his book From Cliché to Archetype, but Thiel, in his negative moment, said McLuhan never got back to the scholarship that he really wanted to do. But I don't really agree with that. McLuhan was a quadrophenic. He loved being out there in the mix, getting on the Today TV show and disturbing the masses with what he had to say.
Wouldn't that be the new scholarship he was doing anyway, Bob? Because most of the people he was commenting on were scholars, but he was really adapting to the electronic environment. So he was part of his scholarship. Yeah. No,
it's not literate scholarship. It was oral performance. He would quickly speak on what was happening. As soon as streaking happened, do you remember streaking? Where people run across a formal place without any clothes on? Do you remember that? 1974? Yes. Streaking. Okay, guys would run across the stage on Ed Sullivan or something with no clothes on. And then they'd get caught at the other end and arrested. But McLuhan immediately had a comment on streaking. And this didn't require any scholarship. It just required his pattern recognition. He said, the streakers are an important phenomenon. They are telling us this. And this is what the streaker, he would then say the following. The streaker is telling us that we're getting all dressed up, but we got nowhere to go. So McLuhan saw it as a satire on elite New York society, going to operas, going to balls, going to Metropolitan Museum with big galas, getting dressed up and going nowhere and having nowhere to go because you were everywhere electrically. So the streaker was making fun of that by taking off his clothes and rushing through as if they were going somewhere. It was a satire.
That's why you are an folk in your videos, naked in front of the computer. You're an folk in your videos, naked in front of the computer.
Oh, yeah, with my shirt on. Yes, that's right. I'm a streaker. Good point. I'm a polite streaker. I don't show my bottom. I just show my chest and my naked upper part. Yes, that's right. Very good point. Yeah, apparently, Bert, people won't take you seriously if you get interviewed and you don't have a shirt on.
We're not going anywhere. That's what McLuhan said.
We're already there. As Ion says, we're already there. Everywhere is anywhere. You're disconnected connected. But so
you are really Bert. The Adam in Paradise, all naked, running around.
Okay, what was in Paradise? What was the first part?
The David in Paradise, naked again.
Did you say the day we're in Paradise? What's the first syllable?
Oh, no, the Adam. I'm sorry, the Adam.
Adam in Paradise. Yes, we're back in Paradise. Yes. We retrieved Paradise, and we're harassed Adam in Paradise, running around trying to keep up with all our bodies. So we're not too relaxed. So Ian has to come forth to tell us to relax and allow. You're all Adams. You're all perfect. You got there, but you're running around as if you didn't get there. So this is what he did, Bert. Like the first time I saw him. No, he did a TV special on CBC about 1961, and he's commenting on the latest fads, like the Lolita novel. It was Vladimir Nabokov did Lolita, and he makes it into what teenagers, and they get these actors, young people, to act out this play. So, and then in 1962, when the twist happens, 1961, he goes on TV to get interviewed to comment on the twist. Now, this doesn't require any fucking scholarship. It requires coming up with neat aphorisms to explain it. So the interviewer says, well, what do you make of this chubby checker and this twist fad? And he said, well,
twist maybe what people were trying to express this vortex also, they felt. That's my theory.
It's too noisy. Oh. Put that in your pot. Pot is noisy. Okay, sorry, Roxy, what did you say? What was that last sentence?
The twist was the result, and Scolia, people commenting on the vortex. They're all
Did you say Escolia? Are you making a Latin word there? Escolia?
Yeah, the Scolia is that's the root of school, from scholarship, from scholar. So that's
Scolia, and it means leisure. Scholarship, Bert, means leisure. Comes from a word that means leisure. The aristocrats had leisure, so they could afford to read. Yeah, school means school. It comes from the word scholia, which means leisure, or that's what McLuhan said. Probably find out it doesn't fucking mean it, but we liked it. We liked the idea that school was a leisure
we like
time
to twist and shout.
Yeah, we like your fallacy. We like his fallacy. I don't like your fallacy. Your fallacy's fucked. We like his fallacy. That's what happens when you're in the Android beam. Everybody's a fallacy. It's just which fallacy you prefer. That article on Donald Trump by Matt Taibbi is funny, and I saw someone talking about it. They said they asked him what did he think of the military or something. He said, well, I've seen all the shows. He translates everything through TV. He just considers consuming TV answers all the questions. I don't know if I said that properly, but it was something absurd. They asked him a technical question. He said, well, I've seen all the TV shows. And anyways, I watch all the shows. That's how he knows. That's right. That's how he knows about foreign policy. He watches the Sunday morning Meet the Press type of stuff. He just watches TV. Gets the cartoon iconic battle. Bullshit. Okay. Back to this. So you get Bert. McLuhan is 1961, he's commenting on the strip, on the twist. Then he's commenting on the Beatles. And then he's commenting on the hippies and LSD. He just comments on pop culture from that point on. But one of his students said, after 1962, McLuhan didn't seem to be interested in literary endeavors or reviews or anything. He was commenting on the present, on the ongoing now. The trends had a recognition.
As I was researching this thing about science fiction, most philosophers of the 20th century had to go to popular culture and science fiction because that's the thing that is reflecting the times, the society, and the many aspects of it's the real Scolia is all this popular culture, the commenting on what's going on. So
McLuhan calls it classroom without walls, Roxy. He calls it the classroom without walls. Classroom, learning,
for a long time, all these things were not considered real art forms, but
they were considered nonsense. And
very good science fiction novels, cyberpunk, all these type of.
Well, that's later, but the best science fiction was written by Lewis and Joyce when nobody knew it was science fiction. You know, William Gibson, these guys, Robert Anton Wilson, Illuminatus trilogy, they're just redoing Finnegan's Wake and Lewis. That's what Don Thiel said. Even Pynchon. Now, they add new rhythms. They have the genius of their rhythm of the period of the writing. They give you something to read. You can read 800 pages of, Gravity's Rainbow. It's a pretty fun read. But as for learning and insight and pattern recognition, you got to go to McLuhan. Like what? Look what I'm going to read you about the instant replay. Here, nobody's talking about the instant replay, and he there back in the late '60s starts talking about the huge significance of the instant replay, and we're going to hear that. Look at what he commented on.
Zappa and McLuhan were seeing that this low culture is going to be actually the altering of the 20th century. And they were already commenting on that and making satire about all these memes and archetypes and
look at Elvis Presley. Before he was sanitized, the guy was outrageous. They had to televise him from the waist up. They couldn't show his legs wiggling. When these guys came out, they were as radical as anybody had ever been in any of the creative arts. Right? So rock and roll in 55, 56 was an outburst of the beginning of the global theater, the post-art world. No more who cared about painting, sculpture, blah, blah, blah. And these were kids. These kids upset everybody. You should hear Sinatra. I'll have to read you what Frank Sinatra says. Do I have that book? Just a second. Let's see, Sinatra, right here. In 1957, you've had a couple years of Elvis and Little Richard, John, and Jerry Lee Lewis. This great book called Rock in America, and it's Rockin' America. It's ROCK''N. So it's like rock and roll, but it's Rock in America, a social and cultural history by a close friend of Arthur Croker. Dina Weinstein, her husband, did Data Trash with Croker, the great update of Marx's manifesto, the theory of the virtual class. Well, on the first page, in 1957, here's what Frank Sinatra said. Rock and roll is the most brutal, ugly, degenerate, vicious form of expression that has been my displeasure to hear. You hear that? Now, you know what that is? That's the fucking mafia talking, the guys that ran the record industry talking. Because there's a book called Hitman, came out about 1990. Read that book. It's all about the mafia, the dirty part of the record industry. And Frank would refer to it. He says, the guys who made the records, managed the industry back in the 50s are still here in the 80s. They're still doing it. They just changed the names and changed the companies and that. But here is Frank Sinatra, who was maybe considered brutal, ugly, degenerate 10 years before when he had the Bobby Soxers fainting in front of him, when he did his singer thing. The kids were really shocking to the parents, the way they reacted to Frank Sinatra. But the world has changed radically with television and the beginning of the computer world. So he says rock and roll is the most brutal, ugly, degenerate, vicious form of expression. It has been my displeasure to hear. This guy's sensibilities are totally disrupted, right?
Yes.
And he's proud to say that. And then he ends up, 20 years later, singing with David Bowie and sort of everybody else. He was mutated, but he didn't know it. He was going to be mutated, and gradually his own daughter, Nancy Sinatra, would be doing rock. So then the other quote is on page, 27? Let's see, there's another one here. 27. Says, as the big bands were marginalized during World War II, singers became a major focus of popular music. Frank Sinatra, for example, had originally been just an unidentified member of Tommy Dorsey's orchestra, merely the singer. He became a big star before the war ended because the bands went out of business during the war for all kinds of interesting technical reasons, and so they had started relying on, the radio stations that started relying on vocalists. So that opened it for somebody like Frank Sinatra, who was just a boring singer for a big band. But then the bands dropped off during the war. It says, Sinatra became a big star before the war ended. A very big star. His screaming female fans caught the attention of the mainstream media, which reinforced his celebrity. At the start of 1945, a Reader's Digest writer described his fans' behavior. Quote, "A few of them slump into their seats, either fainting or convincing themselves that they are doing so. Some of them rush down the aisle to get as close as possible to their hero." End of quote. Then it says vocal groups like the Andrews Sisters, the Mills Brothers, and the Ink Spots all gained popularity because of the making of the records around shellac wasn't available during the war years, and other technical reasons. There was a battle between ASCAP and BMI, and strikes, and the musicians weren't getting paid when they played on the radio, or they demanded to be played on the radio more so that they could get paid. So all these complications that radio did to the music industry of the 20s and 30s. So another quote by Sinatra is page 83. So during the payola scandal, which was another scam because payola was not against the law. You don't hear that, Bert. Did you know that payola was not against the law?
No. I don't know what payola is. What is payola? What is payola?
People bribing DJs to play radio station people to play their music on the radio. It's called payola.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know? You didn't even know about it. Okay. It says, so look at this. In 1958, Sinatra said that rock and roll was, quote, the martial music of every sideburn delinquent on the face of the earth. Every sideburn delinquent. That was this new phrase, juvenile delinquent. So he's saying rock was the martial music, the military music of every sideburn delinquent on the face of the earth. Man, he was having one hell of an identity crisis. He wasn't cool towards this. So, the art world was made obsolete by these kids who were taking over the empty radio medium because TV was taking over, so radio was like floundering. So they said, "Oh, let's sell records to the kids." So they altered consciousness. And then McLuhan in 1964, he gets to comment on that pattern. He says, the amazing thing today is you got teenagers. No, he says you got children affecting global consciousness. Einstein, he was the last adult to affect global consciousness. Einstein. Newton did it a couple of years before that. Then Einstein. And the scientists have been struggling ever since. McLuhan said that science turned into science fiction and Hollywood stuff. Just like espionage, CIA, KGB stuff was obsolete, so it became the daily fare, the content of spy TV shows, because it was obsolete. Okay, so it's so people who heard the later McLuhan in the 60s and 70s thought he was just a gadfly making up unscholarly statements, wacky generalizations, and they didn't know that he had been a scholar and had done incredible work, 30 years before. But people were confused. There was a later McLuhan who didn't seem to be a scholar, and then there was the early McLuhan, and some of the Yale professors that Don Thiel was taught by, Clance Brooks and Wimsatt, they knew McLuhan's scholarship. They had access to the PhD. And then they found it odd that McLuhan dropped the scholarship and went into pop culture. So McLuhan mixed everybody, mixed them and matched them and molded them, just like Zappa. He had the hardest time going into symphony orchestras to get them to play his music because they said, "This is a fucking rock jerk. We don't play for a rock guy." So he and McLuhan were both tough in going into enemy territory from either side. I mean, the rockers detected something wrong with this Zappa guy. He's not one of us. He doesn't smoke dope. He doesn't hang out with us, and he writes music and he conducts people. Man, who is this guy? So the Rolling Stone magazine, banned him. Well, this guy's not cool. So he was an outsider in both worlds, which is what you have to be when you're a modern artist, a modern scientist, a modern pattern shit disturber. I wish the same for you. So, Roxy, it is 8:34, so you have another hour and a half till 10, your time?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we can get some other stuff done. But I'm almost finished this essay. Don't you see that this talk is a pretty good wrapping up of the themes that we've been trying to get to, or have been doing?
Yes.
You get it?
Yes.
It's so beautiful and perfect.
Very good. Yeah, because to those people who don't understand what McLuhan's got to do with Zappa, we're illustrating it with this essay. So,
well, it's like we're actually using this obscure composer to explain the tactile coming in, and he was a tactile artist, and we are using that to illustrate the aspects of
what tactility is.
Yeah.
McLuhan just telling us, showing us how one looks at the tactility and then the extension of tactility in the technology. So he says there's going to be a complete change, and he's when he says, I'm not going to take a guess at what it's going to be, this change, breakthrough in the arts, but I think it would be worth having this breakthrough, since you know that the time is right. You know that the time is right. You know there's going to be a breakthrough. There's going to be a complete change in image in the arts very soon, as there is in technology. He was talking about himself. He was saying, I will be appreciated what I'm doing here. I am the breakthrough in art. My art criticism is way better than anything that they're offering in the art schools. He's always talking about himself, because he knew he'd become he was an environment. And of course, Ion does the same thing. Okay, so then he says,
yes, and I also see, let me just interrupt.
Yeah,
I see
all right. I don't mind you interrupting.
Now that we're post-literate and we have access to all these unlimited archives, to the big data, it's like we all have to become like Leonardo, like you, like Zappa, autodidact. And how do you digest all this information you're getting? What do you do with all this without getting lost in it, without getting sick, without being disturbed by these new frequencies, this new speed? So you have to keep cool and have fun.
Right, and that's so McLuhan is teaching you survive by developing your ability to recognize patterns, so that you remain autonomous. You don't get sucked into things.
And also,
you can enjoy them, participate, but you have your mind is still there. What?
Not to be serious about anything. Like they're all McLuhan, Zappa, Joyce.
And Ion.
You are all.
Here's Ion presenting this profound information with absurd humor.
Ion's amazing, presenting all these pop culture and
inventory of everything.
Commenting on that with a lot of humor. It's like you have to keep this cool with the satire, with fun. It's like Frank
Zappa.
But it
required work. Required an effort. Look, everybody who takes a drop starts, or listening to Ion starts going into exile, silence, and cunning. You know, Joyce's motto. They start getting bugged by their parents, their mothers, their daughters, their family, their social life. They go into exile, silence, and cunning for a while to retune their sensibilities as however they interpret Ion, and then what the drops do to them. So it requires a retreat for a while to get to figure out what's going on, and we provide the best information on how to figure it out. And Zappa became, he went through exile, silence, and cunning. McLuhan did. They all did. Maybe it doesn't take as long now, but that's important about this. It's not just, you don't just start having fun. You actually got to, the stuff you don't like to learn, and you don't like to read, you don't like to think about, that's what you got to learn to have fun with.
Yes.
Yes, because
that is a good point, Bob. That is a great point.
The worst case scenario where everything is toxic. So, laughing. This is just
well, you know, Gurdjieff said you have a chief feature in your personality which you're not aware of, and you've got to become aware of what your chief feature or your chief bias or your chief strength and chief weakness is. And once you become aware of that, hopefully you're coming out the other side with a sense of humor. You didn't go all the way if you don't come out with a sense of humor. You didn't get there. You actually thought you stopped and arrived at some point, streaking through pattern recognition, and then you got to realize you didn't get anywhere. You already arrived, or you didn't get there, or was nowhere to go. But that requires a lot of cleaning out of assumptions and mental voicings inside you that you are half aware of. So we have the Evergreens on it. We have Frank talking to the Evergreens. Now, there's a shocker for 99% of the Zappa people who might listen to this. Bob claims he's talking to Frank. Well, we actually are fucking talking to Frank, and if you listen to it, it's pretty fucking good. I'd like to hear you come up with a similar situation. So we even have Frank right here. So that's a shocker.
Leonardo built a castle for you. The king never used it. It was.
And they had to keep building it. They were going nowhere as fast. They said, "We're never going to use this fucking thing, but you got to fucking keep building it. You got to finish it." Matter of fact, they did live to see it. Hey, they did live to see it. They went to parallel worlds, and they came back every now and then and used it. They're still there.
Yeah, because that's another thing that they kept the whole woods around the castle. The whole nature and the what they kept it inside a big wall, like just everything is ready, so Bob can move in.
So you're saying there's a wall, you can't walk on the property, you got to go through a gate or something.
Well, around the castle, all the woods, it's like a park. It's one of the biggest forests in Europe that is still forest, a big area of forest. And it was kept like that by the king. He built a big wall around the woods. It's the size of Paris, the whole area around this castle. So that's the thing that everybody says, what for?
What for?
What for?
That's right, what for?
Yes.
So they built a wall around the forest, and inside the forest was the castle. Wow.
Yes. It's all there.
Wow.
You can go visit.
What part of France is it?
Let me see the picture.
It's La Loire. It's it's sort of central north. But it's very, very easy if you Google Chambord, CHARTO, you're going to find it. And I sent all the links for.
It's CHAMBORD, isn't it?
Yeah. What did I say?
It's C. You I don't know what you said. Is this what it is? CHAMBORD, Chambord. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I sent all the links to it, so I suppose he will put it on IM.
Now, did you post it on Dupes?
No. You can post it.
I want to make an announcement about Dupes. I went through Bert's 73 4 or 5 minute clips of Ion and music, and I posted my notes to every one of them. Did you know that, Bert? Go on to Bart's Mashups, that thread. Incredible what I did. You got notes. I tell you what basic topics are in each 4, 5, 3, 6 minute thing, and the timing when high points, key points are said. It's a great inventory.
Oh, wow.
And then Bert...
That's great, Bob.
Yeah, and then Bart took all the recordings, as many as he could, and stripped off the music so you just hear Ion and the audio. So we can... I'll probably play some tonight. So you hear it clearly. It's not drowned out by the music. So we've done a great revolution over at Bart's Mashups. And you Zappa fans, when you become a member of Dupes, you'll be able to take part in this. It's good stuff. Or I'll play it during this show, this part. So, okay, back to the Chambord. Do tourists go there now? What happens there now, Roxy?
In Chambord?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, yes. it's a monument of the whole humanity, this UNESCO monument, and it's now property of the French Republic. And this is one of the biggest forests in Europe that is still a forest.
You're not answering my question. Can one visit it as a tourist?
Yes.
Okay, that's easy. You can go see it, no problem. 24/7 or, every day it's available.
Yes, there is a web page with the whole information.
Okay. So, I wonder how long it's been a tourist thing. Since World War II, since the 60s, How long, do you know how long it's been?
Yes, I suppose
property?
After the Second World War, because, to maintain this type of properties is so expensive, and aristocracy has no means anymore to do that. So I suppose it was bought by the French Republic, and they keep it.
So who owned it? Was it the royalty, the King Frank's descendants owned it?
Yes, for a long time it was empty, and then they gave it to a German royal. But then during the 19th century it was empty again, until Victor Hugo said they had to save it.
Victor Hugo,
Yeah.
Okay. It's a great thing to know about. Okay, so let's go on to the next part, the final part of his talk. Now, this is important. He says, we live in the age of the instant replay. And this is one of the most remarkable developments of any age, since it enables us to have the meaning without the experience. You don't have to watch the game. You can have the meaning of the game minus the experience. The ordinary condition of man is to have the experience without the meaning. Most people have experience and don't know what it means. The ordinary condition of man is to have the experience without the meaning. This is universal. The replay is a technique. The instant replay is a technique, not of cognition, but of recognition or recognition. It has changed the nature of sport from top to bottom. Just a minute. How come I think get these blocked? I got things open here. Could you just speak for a minute, Bert? See which one you are?
Yes. You hear me, Bob?
Okay, that's you. Right, and now, okay, then you speak, Roxy.
Yes, what do you think about this whole thing, Leonardo knowing about Ian and Bob? Isn't that amazing?
Right, okay, I've got it. I've got the others blocked now. Okay, good. All right, so the instant replay is a technique not of cognition but recognition or recognition. It has changed the nature of sport from top to bottom. It is a form of emotion regulated in tranquility. Now, he's actually quoting something later, emotion recollected in tranquility. So I don't know if they misprinted. He says it is a form of emotion recollected in tranquility, but they got regulated. That's an odd meaning. It could be satirical. It is a form of emotion regulated or recollected in tranquility. It reminds one of Mrs. Patrick Campbell's observations, I don't know who that is, about the bliss of the marriage bed after the hurly-burly of the Shay-Long. Get that? The bliss of the marriage bed after the hurly-burly of the Shay-Long. So during courtship or being single, there's a lot of stress, something on the chair. And then when you finally get married, you're more anchored. Do you guys know about that quote?
Which book?
Someone called Mrs. Patrick Campbell. I think that's sort of like sounds like a character in a novel. So let's look that up. Maybe that comes up real easy. Mrs. Patrick Campbell. Isn't it amazing how we can just look anything up? You have to remember that.
Yes.
things were so slow before this. You have to go to the library the next day if you even remembered. Jesus, I don't know what's going on here. I type something in, I press the thing, and it goes somewhere else. I think I clicked it and erased it when I clicked it. Sorry, it's taking a long time here. I have to be very gentle and not rapidly click on it. Mrs. Patrick Campbell, 1865 to 1940. Born Beatrice Stella Tanner and known informally as Mrs. Pat, was an English stage actress. Her first husband died in the Boer War in 1900. 14 years later, she became the second wife of George Cornwallis West, a writer and soldier previously married to Jenny Jerome, the mother of Sir Winston Churchill. Oh, okay, so she's mingling with the British aristocrats. Notwithstanding her second marriage, she continued to use the stage name Mrs. Patrick Campbell, rather than her new name. So she did all this theater, and in 1914 she played Eliza Doolittle in the original West End production of Pygmalion, which George Bernard Shaw had expressly written for her. So she was a famous actress. So she said, marriage is bliss. The bliss of the marriage bed after the hurly-burly of the Shalong. Then he says, McLuhan says, emotion recollected in tranquility was Wordsworth's definition of poetry. What does Hein talk about? Lucid collectivity?
Recollected lucidity.
Collective lucidity?
No, recollected lucidity.
Oh, recollected lucidity. That's close to this. Emotion recollected in tranquility. And you're saying recollected lucidity, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Emotion recollected in tranquility was Wordsworth's definition of poetry. The instant replay is precisely that. The replay, of course, is transforming the football game. The football play now has had to be opened up so that people can participate in the process and the technique of the play. Ask any football player and he will tell you that they have to play a totally different game before the cameras than they would ordinarily play. It has to be opened up so that the process of participation in the actual technique of the play can be part of the play. So he means that they have to let people see the instant replay. They got to make time for people to see the instant replay so they can see the process of the action. He says, it reminds me a bit of the story about the referee who was moving the ball along 15 yards for a penalty. And one of the players said, "You stink." And so the referee moved the ball another 15 yards and turned to the player and said, "How do I smell from here?" and McLuhan says, that's the instant replay. So the player says, "You stink." He's pissed off that he got a penalty. He complains, so the guy fines him for complaining, and he moves the ball another 15 yards. And then he says, "How do I smell from here?" Well, the guy wasn't going to say he stunk, right? So he smelled great. The replay is there's no smell. I think it means there's no smell. Can't smell that far away. So you have any meaning without the experience. The meaning is based on that if he says you stink again, it'll get fined again. So an instant replay can be generalized to any form of communication that replays what the person experienced. Okay. At electric speed, you have pattern recognition, and this, incidentally, has implications for many, many things, including education and Watergate. There he is, Bert. Watergate's just happening. You see, Watergate, it really didn't start till the summer of '73 when it was televised, the hearings, and this is in April before the televising. Are you there, Bert? I don't hear Bert.
Maybe he went to drink something.
Yeah.
He dropped out.
Did you get knocked out, Bert?
No, I was here the whole time. I must have got muted somehow.
Go. Make us a long sound.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had accidentally, I fucking opened up the wrong one. You know, when I was checking 10 minutes ago. I don't know, it fucked up. That I muted what I shouldn't mute. So you're open again. Anything you want to say?
Did you say that...
How does Rob smell from there?
What? How do I smell from here, Bert?
Smells good. No, so McLuhan said the emotion was... the instant replay was emotion, recollected in tranquility.
In tranquility. It's after the experience. After the drama, yeah. You're just looking at you find out, well, this is what happened. This is the meaning. The concept is as a removal from the experience. The experience is percept. You're involved in it. You're perceiving it. Then when you know if it came to an end, then you have a concept of what it meant. So you have the meaning, and you don't have to keep experiencing it to have the meaning. But with the instant replay, you're seeing things you haven't experienced. And you're getting the meaning of them without having the experience.
Wow.
That's weird. You're getting meaning.
No, it'd be nice to just, to experience, when he first discovered that, who was around when he said that, and would like to picture their reaction when he just said that, what in the world? But that's really interesting that we could see that now. But that is a unrecognized effect that I never noticed until you brought that up to me.
Nobody notices that. That's right. That's why he said other places it was the biggest metaphysical revolution in human cognition, the instant replay. I mean, other minds would come in, what do you mean? I'm having the experience. They'd muddle it all up and say, no, you're having the experience while watching it. You know, you're seeing the replay. But I'm sure he's adding something to it. I don't know myself. I think McLuhan's nuts. But I think it's interesting for you guys to puzzle these things out. Why should I bother? I'm transcended. I don't engage the mind. But... again, I'm telling you stuff that you didn't know about. Right? That's what's valuable here. I'm telling you things and what he's saying. It's worth thinking about. Is it actually... what do you think? Now, let's check.
It's, for example, amazing when you're talking about something and you do this hyperlinking and read things and quote this and find this other text and this other video. And it's a new type of replay that cannot be done if you write a book. It has to be maybe because we have access to all this.
You have to have a book out. It has to get attention. You have to sell enough so that you get interviewed. And then in that 5-minute interview, you get your chance to say your patterns. Screw that. Just get on the radio and do it. I don't have.
Yes, and
I did have to make Ion.
Yes, and the way you're
Ion didn't happen.
Communicating, you make this is called scholar comments on the whole history of humankind with your chart, and to comment it's like you have to be in this new type of medium, like you have access to all these different type of things. And I was wondering, it's funny how we are making this virtual reality that it might be even more intense as the real physical body experience.
Yeah.
With all the effects and all the visuals and all the sounds. That it's like you're going into another type of hologram that is even more intense because there is not this separation of one sense dominating the other senses. It's all going to be synesthetic.
Yep. So when if I see an instant replay, I don't necessarily know. I just come in the room. They're doing a replay. I don't know how it's going to unfold. So it's a new experience. I'm watching it. But usually you know why the replay is happening, what the result is of what you're watching. You usually want to just see the replay to see what you missed. You want to see the process. So it's different from watching something, very subtle difference from watching something unfold. You're in the middle of it. You're not in the middle of it.
Yes, and it's interesting that up until now, when we transitioned, we got to see the replay of the whole thing we call life.
Right.
That's the point of living, to have this recording and then replay it at the end. But we don't transition.
I didn't get what you're saying. I'll add this, is that what's interesting, you see a replay of your life. Are you going to see all the video you made, all the whatever other media you're on, besides your boring life of going to work or something? What about all the media translations of yourself? Especially if you're Elvis Presley, does he sit around, does his seeing all his life flash before his eye go on for like 3 days?
I don't know. We have to ask Ion how was the replay? But that was the...
Yeah, how is...
Yeah, we were leaving to make a recording and then see the whole replay at the end. So what's the point of that?
Right, so that's what I got from your idea, so that was good. But what were you saying? You were asking what would happen. I didn't get your main point about the dying. We see a replay of your life. Now what are you saying?
Yeah, that up until now that was the thing. Then now we're staying here, and there is no more.
We actually get the replay of life by watching videotape of yourself before you die. That's your point. That's right. I'm asking you. You don't need to die.
You create the hologram.
Yes, I did create. This whole fucking last 5,000 years has been Bob's replay. You know, I made money yet. I never made myself a starry attraction.
Well, maybe we're going into the Zappa thing that we are going to be able to access our recording, our soul recordings, and make a Synocracy re-recording.
Of Frank.
I don't know.
Of something.
There's one point Ion made. There's one point Ion made of starting your life and looking all the way back. Looking back.
Yes. Always operate as if it's your last moment before you make a decision. Look at it from not what it will lead to, but what it would be part of in retrospect. You know, people say, I'll do this and that'll lead to that, something in the future. You say, no, put yourself at the end of the line, then fit the evaluation in of something particular.
Yes, Ion will say here, Bob is in your inbox. Look at Bob.
Bob is in your inbox. Yeah, it's good. But that's interesting. People never heard their voices. People never heard their voices, never saw themselves until recently. So they're seeing a replay of their lives as much as they want to. That's the death state. But the soul does the recording. The soul provides that. So the idea that when you die, you see a replay of your life, no. When you die, the soul might let you see that if you're interested, but you best carry on and go to the guff and not be concerned about your replay, because that's the soul's business, and that's got nothing to do with you. So you don't see a replay of your life when you die. That means every near-death experience is a fucking lie, Bert. They've all been using that archetype. Well, yeah, all my life flashed before me. Well, how could it be? That's the soul.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it does do that, but Ian's brought in some points that might question. We have to re-ask that over again. We have to start over again on that point. Do you see a replay of your life? He does say you judge your life. If you don't judge your life while you're alive, you eventually judge your life when you're floating around waiting to go to the guff, and you can't get to the guff unless you've judged yourself. You've done whatever that judging.
And for example, if we stay here eternally, what happens to the recording, to the thing we call the soul?
What happens to the recording?
They've said many.
Yeah, to the many souls. Are they going to be erased?
You mean once you've died?
No, we're not dying anymore, so...
Right. The soul is not going to do anything. No, Ina said the soul becomes an unused tape recorder. It doesn't do anything because you're manifesting and realizing everything. So the soul goes out of work like the angel.
Yes, because on the one side was this recording of your unmanifested creations, and on the other side, all the things you have done.
Right.
Were those
only the unmanifested
different recordings or both?
No, only the unmanifested, the undone parts. Are you still there, Bert? I think something blipped out. Did you go, Bert?
No, I'm here.
Okay. The things that goes to the guff are the things you didn't do. I don't know if they record what you didn't do, but they have a record of what you didn't do, and that goes to the guff, and the new beings use that to mix up their next life. They appropriate what you contribute. What you didn't do gets dubbed into the guff to be done by someone else. Right, Bert? I got that right?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Ian also said that there's a clip in one. I remember asking him about the soul, because there's one point that they said that the soul you need to learn how to disengage the soul as a god.
Yeah. You don't want to be the goal. You're not unmanifesting anything. You're acting on every creation, so there's nothing for the soul to remember, to collect.
Yes.
So I used to say that people who live puny, small lives and nothing gets manifested or created, they're great contributors to the guff. They're loved in the guff because the more they don't do things, the more you get the opportunity to do it. You as a new being coming to the world. You get to do what they didn't do. So can you imagine being in the guff and most people are doing everything that they want to do and there's now no archives recorded? There wouldn't be anything to do in the guff. You wouldn't have any material to work with for your new life.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole new stream of questions there.
Yep.
All
right, so anyways, at electric speed you have pattern recognition. And this, incidentally, has implications for many, many things, including education and Watergate or politics. See, he sticks in the latest event, Watergate. The replay reveals meanings. You know the Watergate thing is a world of meanings minus experience. So we know the Watergate thing is a world of meanings minus experience because we just see it all in replay. We all had the meaning without the experience. Another feature of this same pattern appears in the plight of the motor car at the present time. The motor car has long been the North Americans' primary mode of privacy. North Americans are the only people in the world, and this is shared by Canadians, he says, who go outside to be alone and inside to be with people. All the rest of the world goes outside to be with people and inside to be alone. And this is a strange story, too. It draws attention to the circumstances that the most profound things in life are subliminal and unobserved. Europeans don't know that they go out to be with people and inside to be alone. They take it for granted, and we take the reverse for granted. Frank Lloyd Wright was the first architect to recognize this strange American pattern, and to put the bricks in the living room and the living room on the patio. I don't know if you know Frank Lloyd Wright architecture. but he put the bricks in the living room, the outside part of the house, and the living room on the patio. At the present time, the American car has a character unlike that of any other car. It's built for privacy. He doesn't say it here, but he says American cars are tinted. You know how you can't see into cars? It's for privacy. And he said they don't do that in Europe. They don't have the tinted windows. I don't know if they do or not. I didn't notice that when I was there last September. I wasn't looking, but I guess I should have. But I was too busy running around in galleries and things to notice what was happening in the traffic. But and so the American car is built for privacy and for going out in to be alone, whereas the European car is, by contrast, like a corset, something very close to the body. It is not intended as something in which you enjoy privacy. And so the motor car is in a strange plight today, the television age. Here's the hidden updating factor. The TV brings the outside inside where people are. It's flipping the whole American way of life and taking the inside outside. Watergate. That takes the backroom boys, takes them out as showbiz, and puts the outside world Vietnam in the sitting room. Do that again. Watergate takes the backroom boys out as showbiz and puts the outside world Vietnam in the sitting room. Now, this has great revolutionary effects on politics. People will not tolerate violence in their homes. They will not have had bad news on TV anymore. They have had to change the newscasting, cool it, and all the hot stuff is left for the newspapers, which is outside, not tolerable inside the home. That's where you go at home. That's where you go to be friendly and nice and chummy. So dig that. New York Times had to become a scandal rag, like the Washington Post. They started Watergate, but TV has had to cool it. Now everybody thinks that's censorship. No, Americans will not tolerate bad news in their TV. The Americans don't want it. The public does not want disrupting artistic news, ugly news that disrupts, disturbs. So it's a different way of looking at why there's nothing, quote, serious on the news, on TV. You get that, Bert? All your buddies were complaining that white man suppressed the fucking news and wouldn't tell anybody and didn't know. It's not that. It's the fact that the TV's in the living room and people don't want the outside world in their living room because they go home to be social. And they don't want the lonely outside world invading their social space. Try to tell that to Huey Newton or Ralph, what's his name, Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. They'd have. Whenever I brought up any McLuhan things to my fellow Black Caucus members, they thought I was fucking nuts. It had no meaning. Tariq was one of these guys.
Did you do that to your friend that just visited you? Was it like Wilson?
Oh, Ray. Ray was so shocked to be in my presence, I couldn't say anything. He was emotionally, distraught. He just never thought, he didn't have much money. He never thought he'd ever get out of New York City. But to have himself in fucking paradise, he walked around for a few days in a state of numbness. He was with his daughter. And with me, what happened? We ate something at the restaurant, and he immediately got an allergy and had to go to the washroom. I think he went and vomited. He was going through a lot of emotions because all of a sudden he was with Bob, and he likes me. He likes Carolyn. He respects us. And it was like it was over his head. He couldn't take it. He apologized at the end. He said, sorry, I wasn't very good company. I just couldn't get over the fact I was with you.
Oh.
Wow.
Does that make you sad? Is that a moan of sadness and sympathy, Roxy?
No, it's like moving that he.
Yeah, it's moving.
Yeah.
No, it's like Ray has a hard life, man. He can hardly get any work anywhere. He starves all the time and manages to get different jobs, so he has no fucking money. I imagine his daughter, who's got a job, and maybe had the money and paid for it. But he talked about last when I talked him on the phone about 4 years ago. Hadn't seen him since 2007 or so, but we talked on the phone a few years ago, and he was talking about, I got to come out there. I knew he'd never come out. There's no fucking way. Ray just, was basically, I didn't even know he'd live long. He's going to die, starve to death. and because it's a different New York, it's a post 911 nurse, tough there, and so all of a sudden he's here, and he really was. So what we did, we went to a restaurant at 5 at night. We got there, first people there. So there's no one there. So it was a big hotel restaurant. So he put the video camera up beside the table. So he has the only recorded document of Bob and Carolyn eating and hamming it up at the table. He's got the only fucking record. No one's ever done that. He's got. It's going to be worth millions someday. Yeah, they're watching Bob and Connie eat. And so after a while, the waitress came over and said, "You can't have this sitting in front, blocking the alleyways, the movement, the traffic. Right? They have to walk by to their tables." But there was no one there. So Ray said, "No, we'll move it before the crowds start coming. We'll take it down." But he actually got footage of us being domestic or whatever you call it, hanging out at a restaurant, and. Eben and Ledge and those guys, they get to be at the restaurant with me last year in L.A., but no one has a fucking videotape. This is the kind of stuff people long for. They want to see Bob when he's private. They want to see what he's doing when no one's looking, right? So Ray got this recording. I don't know what he's going to do with it, but... and of course, I started hamming it up. It's probably funny what I did. I started yelling at Ray, or not yelling, or he's doing something. But he barely made it through the dinner. He had to go to the bathroom twice.
Wow.
So we just listened to him. On the vortex. yeah, right. We basically heard a bit about his life. He didn't have time to learn anything. Here's what happened. He knew he wanted the RNA drops. So Carolyn actually took some leftover stuff and made a sample bottle of what we had. He actually got an RNA drops bottle for free. And so we gave it to him. So he couldn't wait. And then the other day he called me. He says, "Man, this drops is great." I mean, he got it. He took it. He's got no money to buy any, but he got some, and he was having a great effect from it. And he said, "I'm going to get some money, and I'm going to fucking buy another bottle." That's what he pledged.
Great.
But this is it. Bob 1 minute is hanging out with the richest guys in the world, and then he's hanging out with the homeless. Bob is so Christ-like. I'm so Christ-like in my social life, the old obsolete Christ, the dumb third Christ, the guy who unfortunately did hang out with people and suffered accordingly. We know that.
Well, now that you say that, I was thinking about there was this, with the hot fusion, there was the monsters archetype appearing, and then also the megalomaniac Bob conquering not only planet Earth, but the whole multidimensional parallel world. And
what do you mean? Are you talking about megalomaniac? You mean like a Dr. No character in James Bond? What is the Dr. called? Megalomaniac theme?
He's recording on the Zappa writings all the time. And it's funny that he usually...
Wait. Okay, I'm not getting what you're saying. You're saying Zappa showed the monster theme, and then you're saying Zappa himself was a megalomaniac.
No. Besides the monsters appearing in the landscape of popular culture, there was also this megalomaniac that is going to conquer planet Earth. But
you mean like the Dr. No in James Bond? You're talking about James Bond films. The Dr. No's, the guy who's he's got some new technology and wipe everybody out. That's what you mean, right?
Yes. Yeah, because it's something you mentioned several times, how the android name and the media, the popular culture, somehow inverses Bob and projects it.
Oh, they're always smearing me. That's right. They're making me look bad. That's right. They make Walter was an absent-minded. That actually was pretty accurate. But anyways, Walter on Fringe with his basket case. And they make him look exactly like me. Yeah, you're right. They're always misinterpreting what I'm doing. Yes.
And there you are being Christ-like, and they portray...
Yeah, there I am. I don't see anybody on all Slack praising Bob for hosting Ray Wilson.
Yes, we're going to.
And remember, the Wilson family was in the Zappa book the night before. Remember, we were reading from the press, and one of the characters was Mr. Wilson.
In the Christmas celebration.
And then Ray shows up. And so while we were there, here's what we did. I encouraged him to get a job, to go, like he had another 12 hours on the island, like he'd started, Sunday night, they'd be flying out Monday afternoon. So I said, look, tomorrow morning, go to the hotel here, find out job applications. Because he realized, holy shit, this is where I want to spend the rest of my life, man. I don't want to stay anywhere else. I got to fucking move here. And so I told him to, look into it. I don't think he did, but he'll probably call me up one of these days. Bob, would you go down to the hotel and get me an application form? I'll probably have to fucking do it. But he was blown up. He said he couldn't believe the smell of the air when he first landed. The pure air. It just blew him away. After being in New York all these years, the pure air was shocking to him. The flowers, the landscape, the water. He'd been transported to heaven. And he, what was it? I'd say a couple of things. Like, remember I told you when he first called me, we talked about 30 seconds, and whatever I said, he goes, Bob, you're blowing my mind already. I blew his mind in the first 30 seconds. We hadn't talked in 4 years. So, but he's a really nice person, a really good, honest guy, and he's got this whole amazing musical knowledge that goes way back, because he lived it. And so he'd always say, what would he say? Like, Joe Perry of the Five Satins or the Flamingos. He passed by the street today. I was talking to Joe Simon, to be 89 years old, of the Flamingos in 1955. You know what I mean? He sees all these guys around New York City. He had stories about them. He bumps into them. And they all know Ray. So he's a walking archive of New York oral culture. Tactile rock oral. And so he recommended, look, let's just play. I played it last time, but, during the 2 hours. But look, I think this is an incredible song. He called up when he got back home. He said, Bob, hey, I got a good song for you. Play the Golden Tones doing Ocean of Tears. Now, Roxy told me this week that she loved this R&B I was playing. She had never heard it before. She goes, that stuff that goes, wee-oo, wee-oo. So we got to play a wee-oo, a doo-wop. Are you still there? What the fuck? She's not talking. Where are you? Okay, so you fell off. So now you're back?
Yeah. I was right in the middle. Yeah, I dropped out.
Okay, so were you laughing when I was saying wee-oo, wee-oo, when you were trying to do the R&B?
I only heard before this, only you.
Yes, the Platters.
There's so much more.
It's such a great song, and as I was listening to it, I was thinking, Ray is a unique guy. He's a sub-genius. He's had economically a hard life, but he's always worked in the most interesting situations. Like he worked for many years for Gary Null, and that's a real vortex of activity in New York City, and he witnessed all of that. He was the janitor for Gary. But there's not many blacks in New York City who get the RNA drops. You know what I mean? He got his life led him to the drops. And he's in really good shape. He's good looking. He's got everything going for him physically, and now he's got the drops. I mean, this guy is blessed.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Yes,
that's cool that he actually recognized the change after he took the drops and he called you.
Yeah, he noticed it, and he's healthy enough. He took advantage of hanging out with Gary Null. He had no money, so he lives very frugally and healthily. Like he'll live off some really good concoction he made out of herbs or something. He'd drink that for 3 days. He had no money, and but he would live healthily, so he's in really good shape. So what were you saying, Roxy? You said something else?
Yes, when I was listening to the song, somehow I was thinking how some of the titles of McLuhan make us think of some science fiction movie titles like The Mechanical Bride and The Gutenberg Galaxy.
Right.
He's also retrieving this type of science fiction language for his books. And I was also thinking how you, in a way, have all these, embodied all these archetypes like the crazy scientist, the megalomaniac, trying to conquer all dimensions, and the captain of the ship explaining to the tribe the situation, and all these different...
Right. Phineas Wake, I'm here for everybody.
Culture.
Humphrey chipped in here with it.
The mythic hero, like you are... you had all these unmanifested creations and you are replaying them, and I was thinking how what Jung was trying to explain as the
collective unconscious?
Collective unconscious, and that's, he was trying to explain why all these archetypes come back again and again and again in all humanity. And he says there is this collective unconscious, and that's how we retrieve these archetypes. But I was thinking it's more like, it's just the replaying of these unmanifested creations that come back, and then we replay them, and that's how they appear again and again, like what Nietzsche called.
No, that's a good idea. What he calls recurring archetypes is unrealized manifestations. That's pretty good.
Yes, because I don't say there is not conscious or unconscious.
Right, there isn't any. That's right. Now, Alyssa says, she says, okay, thanks for the book, RECS. I don't know what that means. Book references. Oh, okay, I told her where the book was. Right. Then she says, art as survival, ha, ha, ha. Then she says, it says comedian / scientist / jock / artist. Capital letters. Comedian, scientist, jock, artist. Is that describing me? Is that me? Anyway,
that's what you told me last week.
What'd she tell you?
No, you'll see it. You read it. The next line. I shared that on Jenny's show on Wednesday.
Okay, so you're reading these notes?
Yeah, I can see it on. Yes.
No, you're looking at it. Okay, so she says. Oh, I see. She says, thanks for sharing that on Jenny's show, Bert. The only way to be surviving as an artist today is to be beyond as artists, or beyond the artist, is to be beyond as artists. Have to lean quadrophenically through the leading edge. No, she's got lean. Have to lean, L-E-A-N, quadrophenically. What is it, quadrophenia? You got to spell that with P-H-R-E. Maybe you know that, but you didn't spell it right. Quadrophrenia, like schizophrenia. No, not phenically, phrenically. Have to lean quadrophenically through the leading edge to help balance the vortex. Excited to hear more Roxy and Bert and Bob. Now, what did you say about community sciences? I don't get that from what you said. What did you say?
Well, on Jenny's show? There was one segment where they were talking about contrast, and I just related to that. You told me this last week, and it really fit that you need to be a comedian, an artist, a scientist, and a jock,
right?
In order to deal with the activity.
Everybody there has to be a Renaissance person, and you're already being exposed to so much, and most people hide or don't know what to say, have no comment, but they're constantly being aware of new information coming at them through different media all the time, and they don't know how to put it into a framework to make fun with it, to make patterns that you can play with. And McLuhan and Zappa and our people here, they give basic pattern grammar that gives your mind a formula to absorb the strangeness that comes. And McLuhan predicted that. He said, we're going to see more and more bizarre forms. He said that in 1967. And that's the main experience of everybody.
Someday, just like we talk about the Renaissance, they're going to talk about the rebop times. Because Renaissance means...
Did you say rebop? Did you say rebop?
Yes, because... naître, it means to be born in French. So the Renaissance is to reborn.
Right.
So the rebop is also almost the word reborn. So we are like rebop. The rebop era.
Now, do you remember me saying, Bert's probably heard me say this a few times, the end of May 2008, we're on our way to moving to Maui. We drop into L.A., and I visit James Curtis, James Martinez, and Galena. Galena was a friend of Walter. So we get together to celebrate Boward, who had died 6 months before. And in the backyard, we're there for 5 hours while James channeled Walter to me and Galena. So that was interesting. Then we're driving home. James is driving me home, and we're on the L.A. highways, and all of a sudden, James, every now and then, Walter would come through, and he'd go, Walter just said that in 100 years, they're going to be talking about you and making paintings and movies about you. That's what he said. This is a year before Ian showed up. And James just said it. I mean, I don't know if James is jealous of us now or has a problem with us, but he didn't have a problem then. He didn't mind saying that. And I don't even know if he knew what he was saying. He just said it. And I turned to him. I was in the passenger seat. I said, what, Walter just say that? He goes, yep. And then I just thought about it. So you're repeating Walter Boward. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Roxy. I'm looking at a word. But, yes, well, they have to. They will be, because if we do, as Ian says, if half of what we say is going to happen comes true, that'll be too much for you. It's just half of what we're saying. So Alyssa says, does the violence... What?
What's unique is that all of it is in archives, so they'll have access to it. If
everybody will live it for the first time. With our stuff, they'll have the experience and the meaning. I bet you I'll make sure of that. It won't just be puny instant replay where you have the meaning without the experience. You're going to actually have an experience.
I was remembering in the castle, the eights, many of the eights that represent eternity are made with cords. Like they making a knot, and I think it's like putting together all these loose cords, and we're sort of tying again all these ideas, all these patterns, all this information to return to the eternity. I don't know why this thing. I'm just like seeing this type of. The eight created by the chords, and in a way it's like the ADN, is it?
No, DNA.
I think in Spanish we say the you say DNA.
You say it differently in Spanish? You say ADN?
Yes, we have different syntax, yeah.
Ah, yeah. Interesting. DNA.
And yes, but it's
so
also like the braiding of the whole chromosomes.
Chromosome
like
14.
That type of making these eights with the cords is the braiding of the chromosomes.
Right.
Like a big metaphor.
And what is DNA?
The stairwell in the middle of the building.
Yes, the stairs. But
they show that in the documentary. We'll see it in the documentary. We'll see the stairwell, the spiraling stairwell in the center of the court.
Yes, and the funny thing is, I think until the beginning of January, you can see this documentary in Arte, in the French channel per internet.
Yeah.
But they have it open just like for 2 weeks or something like that, and it's amazing. It's right now that you can see it. So
they don't have it open all year long. Are you saying they don't have it open all year long? No,
there are many other documentaries, but now they're showing that too.
No, okay. And are we talking about when you can visit that building as a tourist all year long, right?
Yeah, you can visit that, but in the French TV, they're showing now, I think for 2 weeks, you can access their archives, and they have a documentary called The King.
Oh, you can go into the Castle's archives. You can go into the Castle's archives.
No, it's a TV channel, a French TV channel called Arte.
So what?
They have a documentary showing for 2 weeks. You can access called The King, the Architect, and the Castle. It's in French, but you just watch it and you see the stairs and you see the plan. It's made like cross and all this.
Well, what website? How do I go there right now? How do I go there right now?
Yeah.
What is it? What's the URL?
Google ARTE.
That's all? ARTE?
Yeah, that's a French channel.
Art in English. Art. Yeah, okay. Wikipedia. I'll go to the Wikipedia. Then go down to the bottom. Franco-German TV.
Yeah.
So art website. Art radio. Free service for parts of the art.
If you're in the channel, Google or search for Chambord, and I suppose you are going to see that documentary showing up.
Right. It says, welcome. We've set your default language to English.
Oh, cool. Maybe they even have a version in English.
Wow. So Paul takes it to search the library. So what do I put in? Chambord Castle?
Or put the name of the documentary, The King.
Yeah.
The King.
Right.
The Architect and the Castle.
Right. And the Castle. The bastard wouldn't type. What's wrong? Yeah, it won't register. I'm trying. It says loading. Maybe it's still loading. Hasn't got to the complete download yet. Neapolitan style. Weddings, Neapolitan style.
Oh, wow, it's past. Okay.
It's past?
I have it. It says, I was looking for the program, but then I got something that says in French, Da Vinci en Dolore.
Yeah, maybe that's it, Da Vinci and La Loire.
Well, for some reason, it won't let me type anything. It says it's loading. Search in the library. Yeah, it won't register. Nothing goes in.
Well, maybe you can
go up when you
see
type.
it later, but you have the link is there. You'll find it.
Okay. But there's also something on YouTube as well, Roxana. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are many documentaries about that place because it's like this type of UNESCO monument, patrimony of all humanity.
Okay, so I'll type a little. It's just not typing. One letter went in. So Alyssa says, so what did we finish? So you were describing, what were you just describing?
The courts and the decorations, how we are putting together all these ideas that were loose and tightening.
Right.
Making all these connections again to regain the eternity.
Right. Now, we already have the eternity. We just have to not regain it, just notice that we are eternal. Notice it. Apply it. Well, maybe that's regaining. Does the violence of the arts refer to Krishnamurti? And Dave Worcester, question about violence in Ojai. Yes, in 66, Dave Worcester says, are you asking us to experience violence? I'm 20 miles from Ojai right now. Back with Zappa, forward with Zappa, back forward with Zappa. So the violence of the arts. So no, I don't think the artists. Yes, mundane artists avant-garde artists are presenting stuff that they think is disturbing, and they want to disturb you. But that's done conceptually. The real art, the real serious art, disturbs people in ways that the artist didn't anticipate. I don't think Stravinsky knew that they would riot at Rite of the Spring or whatever it was in 1913. He didn't say, oh, yeah.
So, for example, the Impressionist or the Expressionist German, they were just painting in a way that was shocking for the society at their time. And just for us, it's very beautiful and quite figurative, but at the time it was really shocking.
Okay, so if the artist has to know what is upsetting. So yes, the artist is asking you to experience violence, to experience what would appear violent, but I don't think the artist can do it just to bug you. They have to generally reflect the present dynamics that are going on due to the new technological effects. They have to unwittingly do it. Like James Joyce said that he hated doing Finney's Wake. He couldn't stop it, and he got really worried about it, and he would go to mediums to see how he was doing. Like, he couldn't stop doing the wake, but he had to do it that way, and he didn't know really why he was doing it. So, or whatever reason he came up with, he wasn't happy with. So I don't think you can be a phony and say, okay, this is what will bug people. That's too contrived. I think most art that is effectively surprising, it happens by accident. So was Picasso, okay, this will really screw them up when he did Cubism. Okay, we'll just sort of make this odd and see what happens. But
for example, McLuhan explains Cubism as also as the all happening at the same time and not having one point of view, but many points of view at the same time.
Multi-locational. Called multi-locational.
Yeah. So it's also an effect of what is coming, and maybe even Picasso will not understand what he was doing, but he was already showing it.
He was feeling it. His ideas, his instinct made him do it that way. He did not know what it would do to people. Even though McLuhan says the artist is trying to get an effect, so they want to get some effect. It's a tough question how much the artist knows.
With Bob, what you said about Joyce, could that possibly have been the non-physical pushing through and he just didn't understand it, so he went to the medium to see if he's okay and he just continued, but it was just the non-physical pushing through him, possibly?
Well,
yes, because even Ian said they were telling him.
Oh.
Like they were telling John the Revelator, and they were telling Joyce, and Nostradamus, and Bob when they were doing the chart on.
Yeah, but
yes, I don't know how it was for you. You are not aware of what you're doing, but you have.
No. When I was doing the chart, I thought it was really good. I thought, oh, now I'm really getting it organized. This is perfect. I thought it was really well done. This is how you organize it. Look, I mean this, I mean that. It's all in the chart. I thought it was a beautiful creation. Like Zappa says, he doesn't know why all the songs aren't a hit. He said, every song I make I think is great. So I thought it was good. But the response to it, I never would have anticipated. I thought I was helping people understand it. It just caused more fucking confusion. Incredible confusion. I was trying to put it in order. All the factors that I was thinking about, and I thought I did a pretty good job. And here we are, 20 years later, 20th anniversary, with hundreds of hours explaining it, and nobody really getting much out of it, or not many people know about it. And then Ian says it's in the Bible. So
yes, but maybe these creations are
I had
like
no idea. I had no idea what it meant. I thought it was great in my terms. But it meant a lot more, which I did not know about. So I'm unconscious of the meanings of it. I had the experience without the meaning. It was not an instant replay. Even though I say this is the instant replay of the Android beam.
Yes, but maybe all this great art is a moment of recollected lucidity where you connect to the knowing and you just sort of flow with that and relax and allow.
You get it right. Yeah, you get it right. And I think Ian said that all creativity comes from non-physical because it's all unmanifested creations that have to be made, and they're all in the fallen state because the ascended person doesn't require any of these creations. Doesn't need a chart. Doesn't need anything. Yeah. So all art is coming from... yeah, go ahead.
No, Ian said that the angel helped you with your chart. I don't remember where it was, but I remember hearing that.
No, we know that. Yeah, that's a good... Hey, listen, it's coming up. You only got 12 minutes left, right, Roxy?
Yes.
Okay, so we got to finish the article here. Let's see. Then it says, Frank Sinatra had Elvis on his show, and they sang together. One out, one in. But what year was that done? And why is that later? Why is Frank saying it's ugly? You know, what the hell is Frank referring to? And then he has Elvis on the show. So, good question. Okay, so we're talking about...
It's all about the commercial successes. Elvis, right. It was good for business.
Right. So he's saying, McLuhan says, people will not tolerate violence in their homes. They will not have had bad news on TV anymore. They've had to change the newscasting, cool it, and all the hot stuff is left for the newspapers, which is outside, not tolerable inside the home. That's where you go to be friendly and nice and chummy. So the motor car is being phased out of our lives, not by gasoline shortages, but by a complete revolution in our spatial consciousness, which is from television. You can tell General Motors or Ford this someday. They don't know this, and they're not likely to be able to understand it anyway. But I mean, without real training in the arts, these people will not survive. This is literally true. Big business cannot survive today without a very highly developed sense of the arts. They're the warning signs. All the warning signs of the new ground are present in the arts long before the hardware boys ever feel them. And so the arts are for survival purposes and for navigation purposes, and as such are indispensable even at the most homely and humble levels. So that came true. Chrysler and everybody all fucking collapsed, and they had to fucking go on welfare. Right? Remember that? When the car companies collapsed 10 years ago or something? He told them. They weren't reading their finished weight. They weren't listening to me. They had no fucking clue. And he says they don't know this, and they're not likely to be able to understand it. Anyway, he says. So then, he says, this particular structure of the North American man who goes outside to be alone and inside to be with people has naturally affected all our literature. You will find that this is the key to American literature, whether it's Walt Whitman or Hawthorne or Thoreau. Unlike the European who introduces you to his characters indoors, the North American character is met out of doors as an extrovert, a man of the open spaces. He may be a gumshoe, which means a detective. He may be a gumshoe or he may be a cowboy, but he's certainly not a man of the salon. Another peculiar feature of our time is the dropout. The dropout is a person who's trying to get in touch by breaking a bind or a hang-up. The problem is related again to the acoustic world of electric institutions. At electric speeds, the old organization chart doesn't hold up very well. The educational curriculum chart doesn't hold up very well. The boundaries between subjects and teachers and students don't hold up very well at the speed of light. So the dropout is a person who is attempting to get in touch by introducing a new interval between himself and some bind. The drop-in, on the other hand, is the consultant who is not in quite the same bind. The drop-in, on the other hand, is the consultant who is not in quite the same bind. But the wheel and the axle may be useful here as an image of the play that is necessary between figure and ground in order to be in business, or to be in any kind of viable situation. Between the wheel and the axle, there must be a slight interval. It is called play. You remember an episode that occurred in the newspapers a few months ago in which some people volunteered to introduce themselves anonymously into mental institutions. So they agreed to book themselves in, only to discover that nobody could tell they were sane. None of the operators of the mental homes, what's he called, in mental institutes, but he has there, none of the operators of the homes could tell who the sane people were once these people got in. But there was one group of people who had no doubts, and they were the madmen. The mad people pointed at the intruders and said, they're playing. Now, a madman never plays. He is a very serious character, very specialized, very logical. He is granted his very narrow assumptions, and he's absolutely logical. But this lack of play may be the difference between madness and consciousness, or sanity. These mad people spotted the sane intruders instantly and said, quote, "They're playing. It's a put-on." Isn't that amazing? The insane people caught the fake people. They knew they were putting it on. And it says, "Remember Hamlet, who by way of trying to find out who his friends were said, quote, 'I'm going to put on an antic disposition. I'm going to pretend I'm mad.' This was a ploy used by Pirandello in Henry IV, in which the emperor puts on the role of madness in order to ascertain the credibility of his courtiers. Nobody, by the way, can be insincere in the presence of a madman. This apparently is a physical and psychological fact, that in the presence of mad people, everybody fesses up in some way or other." I was thinking that's why everybody fucking admits everything with Ion. Ion is basically a mad consciousness, an insanity, and nobody can be phony, so everybody tells the truth. In private or even on the show. You get that, guys? You still there?
Yes. Yes.
Where's Bert? Is he still there? Let's see. You were blocked again, Bert. You're back?
I'm back.
Okay, so did you get that? Nobody can be insincere around Ion, because Ion, for all intents and purposes, is a madman, a mad consciousness. That's pretty cool, eh? Do you see how Boone predicts Ion? He's
yes, and that was the thing that impressed me the most when they told me to report to Bob, is they were showing me very intimate things about the people I would look at. And I said, I don't want to know, but it's like if they show me they see through you, they know everything. So it's like they know your agenda, they know what your motives, and there is no point in trying to be smart or whatever, they know.
Well, right. Now, that's an interesting point. Like, he's saying you can't be insincere in the presence of a madman. But actually, I'm taking a different view. People can't be insincere in front of Ion because they find out Ion knows. But I'm just saying, if you look at Ion as a madman, another reason why you can't be insincere is you start confessing when you're with a madman. Okay.
Yes, and the point here is just to get your power back. There is no other agenda besides that.
Right. And I just realized a lot of people always say, geez, I just told you all about myself and I know nothing about you. I'm a fucking madman. Everybody confesses when they start talking to me. They tell me everything. I'm mad. I have proof now that I'm mad.
Yes, and besides, you can ask Ion and know whatever you want to know.
Yes, I can check up with Ion. That's right. I check up every one of you guys. Find out what's really happening. Okay. So then he says, the role of the artist in play needs no stress. The artist is a person who tends to use all his faculties simultaneously and is always at leisure when working hard. The artist is never more at leisure than when he is facing a very tough problem. The use of all the faculties simultaneously creates pleasure. Children always seem to be playing because all of their faculties are simultaneously engaged. They don't have a goal. They do tend to play roles very easily. They don't have a goal. They do tend to play roles very easily. One of the peculiarities of innovation is the unexpected retrieval of ancient forms. The electric age, this resonant acoustic time, retrieves above all the occult. The occult is by definition the form that is congenial to acoustic man, and he, the acoustic man, therefore appears to be superstitious. I think it was Levi-Strauss who, in discussing the savage in his book called The Savage Mind, says that the savage regards everything as being related to everything, which is a formula for paranoia. The paranoiac is a person who suspects that everything is connected with everything. And this is a very good definition of acoustic man, because acoustically, in terms of the vibes, everything does relate to everything. So, the android meme, the electric age retrieved the occult, but the android meme retrieved Ion. Which is, the android meme is more than the occult. More information, way more multi-dimensional. But it retrieves something even further back, more ancient. Something our grandchildren knew. You got that? Our grandchildren knew. Ooh. What direction are we going? Okay, here's the last paragraph, with 3 minutes left. One of the functions of the artist that is understood in recent decades is that it is, above all, to prevent us from becoming adjusted to our environments. One of the functions of the artist that is understood in recent decades is that it is, above all, to prevent us from becoming adjusted to our environments. There's always a danger of becoming a robot, of becoming well-adjusted or conditioned like a man paddling a canoe. A man paddling a canoe may seem very symmetrical and very harmonious in relation to the elements. He is, in fact, a servo mechanism. You know, people go out in nature to be spontaneous and they act like robots in the tools they get them to nature, like a canoe. The better adjusted he is to that paddle, the more a servo mechanism he is. That doesn't mean that it isn't fun. The danger, however, of becoming a servo mechanism of our own environment by adjustment is headed off by the artist who creates violent new images to dislocate our sensibilities. The job of the artist is dislocation of sensibility to prevent us from becoming adjusted to total environments and to becoming servant and robots of these environments. That may sound paradoxical. The phrase is from Rimbaud, quote in French, "Un dérèglement de senses," "un dérèglement de tous les sens," like upsetting all the senses. Then he says, the job of the artist is to upset all the senses, and thus to provide new vision and new powers of adjusting to it and relating to new situations. There's a perfect ending of Ion and Zappa. The job of Ion is to upset all the senses, and thus to provide new vision and new powers of adjusting to and relating to new situations or frequencies.
Yes, and Zappa is commenting about the cosmic debris, the mutants, the zombies, the monsters, the robots, all these.
All of it.
It's that. I suppose he was aware of what he was doing because he was having this discourse very, very. In appearance, very simple, very funny, whatever, and behind that he had this amazing music as a soundtrack of the movie he was making.
Right, that's right. And remember, he wanted to become a TV show. In people who put up Glenn Gould versus Zappa, Gould had a TV show, I guess, in the 70s. Well, Frank was trying to get a TV show after he broke up the Mothers in 1970. He was trying to get on TV, and he lays out a program he almost pulled off with Daniel Shore, the famous journalist who got banned by media. He negotiated with Dan Shore to be on the show, and he was going to... What they were going to do was to do maybe like listen to this, they were going to do a Dateline or